What should have been the start of a perfect chapter turned into a nightmare the moment I proposed to my girlfriend. Overnight, she changed, bringing strangers into my home and pushing me to the edge. Now, she's on her knees, begging when I did this. The moment I, male 32, slipped that engagement ring on Sharon's female 30 finger, something changed. We'd been together for 2 years, and until a month and a half ago, everything felt perfect. We shared common values, laughed at the same jokes, and made plans for the future. I thought we were on the same page, or at least, I thought I knew who she really was. But in what felt like the blink of an eye, everything shifted. Now, I'm sitting here questioning if I'm the one losing my mind. It all started not long after I proposed. 1 week. That's all it took for Sharon to start acting like a completely different person. We had this compatibility, this bond, or so I believed. But now, it feels like I'm engaged to a stranger. 7 weeks ago, I popped the question, and she said yes. The happiness was something I cannot describe. But within days, it was like the Sharon I knew vanished. I came home from work one evening and found 6 women in my living room, people I'd never seen before. Sharon introduced them as her inner circle. Inner circle? This was the first I'd heard of them. I'd already met her 2 best friends, Michelle and Octavia, over a year ago. They weren't here. I asked why I'd never met these women before, and Sharon casually replied, "I wanted to make sure we were a sure thing before introducing you." That struck me as odd, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe I just didn't get it. But what really got to me was how they treated my home. Our home, really, since Sharon was staying over so much. By the time they left, 4 bottles of my wine were gone, and no one even bothered to thank me or ask if it was okay. I tried to talk to Sharon about how uncomfortable I felt with uninvited guests draining my wine rack on a random weeknight, but she just waved it off like it was no big deal. Following weeks were a blur of more red flags. Sharon started going out with the girls constantly, and when she wasn't out, they were over at my place. Twice, they showed up without notice, and when I asked for some kind of heads up, Sharon's response was, "Oh, this time I'll give you notice, just to appease you." Her words, not mine. It didn't stop there. Every time they were over, they acted like I was some kind of servant, shaking their empty wine glasses at me for refills. By the 4th visit, I'd had enough. I told Sharon I was getting a lock for the wine rack. Her response? "You're no fun." Things escalated from there. Sharon decided that the reason her friends and I weren't getting along was because we got off on the wrong foot. Her solution? A dinner together at a nice restaurant. I wasn't thrilled, but I went along with it, hoping it would smooth things over. It didn't. Instead, the entire dinner felt like an interrogation. They asked me question after question about my life, my job, my house. But when I tried to ask anything about them, they deflected or gave vague answers. It was awkward, to say the least. Then the conversation took a turn that left me reeling. They started talking about relationships, specifically modern ones, and jealousy. One of them brought up polyamory, and I was caught off guard when Sharon chimed in, saying we shouldn't be too quick to dismiss the idea. This was the same Sharon who, just a month ago, had been fiercely monogamous and totally against keeping exes in the picture. Now, she was acting like we hadn't had that conversation at all. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And just when I thought the night couldn't get worse, the bill arrived. Sharon smiled and announced that we'd all split it, then slid the check to me. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh and tell me it was a joke. But she didn't. We got into a small argument, and I left some cash for my portion before walking out. I couldn't stand being there a second longer. The following days were a nightmare. Sharon kept calling me toxic and fragile, but when I tried to push back, she'd apologize, blaming it all on stress from work. Felt like I was talking to 2 different people. We hadn't even started planning the wedding. Already, things were falling apart. The final straw came last Monday. I was at work when I got a notification from my Nest doorbell. Checking my phone, I saw Sharon and one of her inner circle friends at my place. They went inside and left a few minutes later, carrying my golf clubs. These weren't just any golf clubs. They were a gift from my dad, and they were worth a lot. Furious, I called Sharon immediately, demanding she bring them back. She tried to gaslight me, saying I had agreed to lend the clubs to her friend's boyfriend. I knew that was a lie. I told her in no uncertain terms that if those clubs weren't back within the hour, I'd be calling the police. 45 minutes later, I got another notification from my Nest, and there they were, bringing the clubs back. Her friend even had the nerve to flip off the camera on her way out. When I got home, I found the clubs tossed carelessly on the floor. Sharon tried to talk to me again about my so-called toxicity, but I wasn't having it. I told her that if I'd known this was who she really was, I would never have proposed. That seemed to finally get through to her. She started crying, begging me not to break off the engagement, blaming everything on stress. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just stress. I told her to give back the ring and her key, and we'd talk about our relationship over the weekend. She left, but not before texting me non-stop, apologizing and saying she just wanted to show me off to her friends. But I don't believe her anymore. Her close friends have been texting me daily, calling me toxic and fragile, just like Sharon did, and telling me I wasn't man enough for her. Some of my own friends are even starting to wonder if I'm leaving something out, or if I somehow triggered all this. It's a whirlwind of confusion and doubt, and I'm stuck trying to figure out what to do next. That's where things stand for now. I never imagined a proposal could lead to this kind of chaos. What do you think? Did I miss the red flags, or is there something bigger at play here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. Until next time, stay sharp and keep questioning.